The thing that concerns me most is the chaotic approach to this. And it looks as if what Trump has done is actually damaging America more than it is other countries at the moment. And there's already quite a strong backlash in America.
Markets have continued to reel worldwide this week following Donald Trump's announcement of global tariffs last week. And there was an unsettling shift on the US bond market as treasuries were sold off, which is thought to have contributed to Trump's eventual decision to announce that 90-day pause for most countries, with tariffs capped at 10% for 90 days. Now, he was asked outside the White House to explain his thinking.
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know? They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions, because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents, they wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, you know, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also, but somebody had to do it. They had to stop because it was not sustainable.
China, of course, was not included in the pause. And in fact, the two nations are now locked in a trade war with Beijing this morning, matching the US with 125% slapped on imports. World markets have responded by falling, and the investment bank JP Morgan says it remains difficult to see the US avoiding a recession. Ben, I mean, I guess British Steel, their woes with British Steel have sort of been exacerbated by this tariffs and 25% slapped on steel exports, for example. Just on the general picture, is the US now just an unreliable ally? Have we got to just look at fostering closer links with the EU, but also China?
Well, it's certainly an unpredictable ally. We've all learned a new American English word, yippee, this week.
From golf,
but look,
apparently.
Okay. Well, I'm not a golfer. No, I mean, I think the thing that concerns me most is the chaotic approach to this. And it looks as if what Trump has done is actually damaging America more than it is other countries at the moment. And there's already quite a strong backlash in America. Look, so I think we just have to, you know, with everything that this president does, we just have to wait and see what happens next. I think the British government's approach so far has been absolutely right. Keep calm and carry on, so to speak. And you know, we will be doing everything we can to reduce the impact on the UK and change policy if necessary to help mitigate some of the effects of a potential trade war.
Penny?
Well, look, I think it's important to point out, I noticed there's quite a number of commentators saying, the US is making China look like a reliable partner. My answer to that is wake up. China is not a reliable partner. And I think we just need to keep a bit of sanity here. But
do we also need to increase trade with China at arm's length and with caution?
Well, look, I think we're talking about reliable partnerships here. I've just literally this morning landed back from Washington, and I've spent the week talking to congressmen and senators on both sides. The one thing that they all agree on is that they don't really know what's going on. They don't really know what Trump's objectives are here, and he's using tariffs and threats of tariffs to sort out some trade issues, but also, I think, to sort out some other issues, some of which are not trade related. And his critiques also pile on some other motivations as well. I think the critical thing in this is we, as a key partner of the United States, has to actually push through and be ambitious about getting a trade deal out of this, and to continue what we've been doing at state level, because actually a lot of the regulation sits there. It's not going to be at a federal level at all. Yeah. The must throughout all of that is we have to try and calm things down to provide some certainty for business. Business isn't investing, it's pausing its plans, understandably, because of this chaos. And I think everyone is really pressing the White House now just to take this at a steadier pace and be clearer about what its long-term objectives are.
Ben, there's a very interesting suggestion in Patrick Maguire's column in The Times today, talking about trading relationships and how the UK should play all of this, suggesting perhaps that now is the time to look at pursuing a customs union with the EU. Would you favour that?
I would. I don't know whether it's deliverable in that short term, but I certainly think, and I've always said this, that a Trump presidency would put rocket boosters up behind Britain's rapprochement with Europe. Going back to your question, I mean, I think the supreme irony of everything that Trump's doing is actually driving America's trading partners into China's hands, or has the potential to do so. The very opposite of what the president says he wants to do. But no, I would certainly favour. I mean, Europe remains our biggest market, and I think with America behaving as it is, and the divergence of America from the rest of the world on social standards, on regulation, and so forth, I think would make Britain's more open and closer trade with Europe a more comfortable partner. But again, everything is in flux, and I hope that the UK can secure both a trade deal with the United States, as Penny has just said, but also remove some of the barriers that have been left over from Boris Johnson's disastrous Brexit deal.
Right. Well, let's move on for now. Let's talk about Ukraine, because NATO allies have pledged £18 billion in aid for Kyiv at the Ukraine Defence Contact Group Summit in Brussels. Defence Secretary John Healey co-chaired the talks and spoke to the media this morning.
Now is the critical moment. A moment for our defence industries to step up, and they are. A moment for our militaries to step up, and they are. A moment for our governments to step up, and we are. And we are sending a signal to Putin, but we're also sending a message to Ukraine, and we are saying to Ukraine, we stand with you in the fight, and we will stand with you in the peace.
Well, the US Defence Chief Pete Hegseth wasn't in the room, but he did join remotely. Under the Biden administration, of course, the US chaired all the Ukraine Defence Contact Group meetings. Meanwhile, Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's special envoy, is in Russia meeting with Vladimir Putin. Penny, you've just come back from the States. The fact that the US wasn't in the room and, you know, really Europe pulled together, put these new deals on the table, new military aid on the table. Ukraine is really feeling the absence of full US support, isn't it?
Well, look, I think it was an important message that was sent to Putin, which is that we are going to enable Ukraine to carry on the fight. So that's an important message, because Putin needs to understand that suddenly European nations aren't going to step back. We're leaning in, and we're giving a signal to our defence industries that they can step up production of these particular capabilities. So that's the good news. The bad news is, at best, this is business as usual. And what I hope is revived over the coming weeks is the momentum that Trump created. Perhaps not the style he created it in, but the momentum to try and create the conditions for this war to end, because Ukraine needs it to, and so does everyone else. And Putin is not responding in the way I think Trump had hoped. So the ball is really back with the president. You know, he promised he would end this war in 24 hours after his inauguration, and that plan is not going very well. So he really does need to now turn some of the screws he's alluded to get Putin to realise it's in his best interest to end this.
And some suggestions that Steve Witkoff should be delivering a kind of ultimatum to Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg. Ben, your thoughts?
Yeah, again, I completely agree with Penny on this. And I mean, we're always told that President Trump is a very, very impatient man. I wonder when he's going to lose patience with President Putin, who's just playing him like a fool at the moment. I mean, he's just piling condition on condition on the ceasefire. We're nowhere near that. And yeah, I mean, how much patience has the American president got and before he puts the pressure on?